voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Hello, my friends. Cheers to you. I've got some Saurian brandy here. And welcome to the landing party. Today is episode 8, Charlie X. It is stardate 2405.8. And here is your captain's log. Charlie X was written by, and this is the first script by D.C. Fontana. She was, at the time, Gene Roddenberry's secretary, but she wanted to write. And he gave her the opportunity with this episode. It was directed by Lawrence Dobkin, who is an actor turned director. He started directing stuff like The Rifleman and other series in the late 50s, early 60s. But I primarily knew him as an actor until I started researching this episode. Because if you remember the movie Them with James Whitmore about the giant ants, in the sequence where they're in front of the tunnels where the kids have been taken into the tunnels in California there, the sewer tunnels, there's a reporter and, he's saying that the kids are already dead. And James Whitmore says to him, you want to tell their mother that? She's right there behind you. And he turns and he looks and he comes back and he says, yeah, I see what you mean. That's Lawrence Dobkin. And you'll see him in Westerns and a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, he was the director of this film, of this episode. He was in Europe helping a buddy of his with a spaghetti Western when he was called to do this thing. So when he arrived in the States, he was a little bit late on the set. He couldn't help it. But that put them behind on their very, very stringent schedule. So there was a lot of overages, a lot of overtime to get things back up on NBC's production schedule. And as a result, he was not asked back to direct any more episodes. But he did a great job on this one, I have to say. The original idea was part of the original series proposal to Desilu for Star Trek. The outline was by Roddenberry, and it was called, the original title was The Day Charlie Became God. Very loose outline that he ended up handing over to DC Fontana to flesh out, which she did. And she got credit for the teleplay, but it's really her whole story. His was just a basic outline, but he gets credit for it, for the story. If you look at the credits in the episode, it says Roddenberry for story and her for teleplay. But it really is almost all her, except for the basic idea. This is the second episode aired on NBC. It was originally going to be later down the line, but they were already, by the second episode, they're already behind production schedule. So they put this one out as number 2 because there wasn't a lot of post-production work that needed to be done for it, so they could get it out quickly. NBC wasn't happy with this episode because it's what they call a bottle episode. Everything takes place on the ship. And what NBC really wanted was all the, they liked the stuff on the ship, but they wanted the guys to go down to planets and to see other races and stuff, other aliens and stuff like that. So they weren't too happy with it. Michael Pollard, you remember him from Bonnie and Clyde, was originally suggested for the role of Charlie, but the casting director, Joe D'Agosta, had Pollard in mind for another episode down the road, which was Miri. He's the guy who wears like the old army fatigue. Weird looking dude, but a good actor. But anyway, D'Agosta was shooting for bigger talent for the role of Charlie, and he ended up bagging Robert Walker Jr., who was a talent on the rise at that point. He had been in the Ensign Pulver TV show. He came from Hollywood royalty because his mother was Academy Award winner Jennifer Jones, and his father was Robert Walker Sr., who appeared in Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, among many other things. But he died young. He was only 32 when he passed away. So Junior, I don't think, knew him very well. A couple little trivia things and interesting nuggets here. The voice of the chef, when he goes on the speaker to Kirk to tell him that the meatloaf that they put into the processor, when he opened it up, there were live turkeys in there. And by the way, the reason that Kirk says, he wants the crew to, feel like they're eating turkeys is because this was originally supposed to air as a Thanksgiving episode. So henceforth, the turkey. But anyway, the voice of the chef who's saying that, I opened it up and there was live turkeys in there. That was Gene Roddenberry himself. And once you know that and you listen to it, and if you've ever heard Roddenberry's voice, it's distinct. So I was listening to that when I watched it today. I'm like, oh shit, that is Gene Roddenberry. There's a great blooper in this one. When Kirk is getting into the elevator to go up to the bridge, and Charlie asks if he can go with him. He says no. He says, I won't get in the way. He goes, okay. So they get into the elevator. And when he gets into the elevator, Kirk is wearing his standard command tunic. When the elevator opens on the bridge, he's wearing his alternate tunic, the green one that he wore in The Enemy Within, the one that cinches around the middle. So somebody missed the boat on that one. And at this point in the series, the United Federation of Planets has not been established. And during Kirk's captain's log, he refers to USPA, which is the United Earth Space Probe Agency. And I hadn't realized that, but then when I listened to him and I heard him say, when he has to report to USPA, I was like, what the hell is that? So that's what it is. So now as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. Okay, so that's it for the captain's log for Charlie X. Let's bring in the landing party themselves. First off, we have the beautiful, that Star Wars girl, Anna, who is back from Under the Weather. Welcome back.
Yeah. Thank you. And we get to talk about the Creeper episode. Yay.
The Creeper episode. There you go.
Yeah, no, I was rewatching it earlier because I never watched this one. And my husband was like, this is, oh my gosh, he said this is like what an autist is like in space. And he's even got like retard superpower strength. And I was like, oh my God.
He must have forgot what it was like to be a teenager.
I've never met a teenager like that.
Well, actually, this teenager happened to be 26 years old at the time, too. So Robert Walker was 26 when he was playing the 17-year-old. But speaking of 17-year-olds, here's the man who's still 12 inside, but 17 on the outside.
That's right.
Aaron Lopresti.
What an episode. I always hated this when I was a kid, but I've grown to like it more and more as I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
And in case people are wondering in the chat, because there was a little bit of confusion last week about what episode we were supposed to be watching, I got it right this week. And I did, So Charlie X, I'm ready. I'm ready to answer
I posted the charts for all the episode orders in the group chat.
I just had it in my mind that Charlie X was last week. I don't know why. So I didn't even check. I just watched it. And then I found out I was wrong.
Get it over with.
That's right. But I don't know. It was not as adventurous. I tend to go for, I think Anna and I like a lot of the same episodes, like Journey to Babel and so forth. But this was it had a lot of nice scenes in it, though, moments
Hmm.
and bits, and but it always again, my first impression as a kid when I first saw this, like when he makes the girl's face disappear, that was I was like, oh my gosh, those people are going to suffocate, and I'm sitting in there going, no, So it was little things like that almost being afraid of this kid's power, you know what I mean? And you're waiting for him to bubble over and turn on Kirk, and they are too in the cast, of course. They're like, I think it was either Bones or or Spock that told Kirk and said, there's going to come a point where he's going to push back, and you're constantly on the edge of your seat waiting for that moment to happen, because this kid apparently has all godlike power. So it's like, what could they have possibly done to defend themselves? So there was always that little sense of dread going on behind this episode, because Charlie's face always looked like he was about ready to lose it and kill somebody, when things weren't going his way, and they never went his way in this episode. You're like, oh my gosh, he's gonna lose it, so
There's a
He's such a brat.
yes.
There's a great sequence when he's first confronting Kirk, and they have like a spotlight on his eyes, and the rest is in shadow, and he's really creepy looking.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool choice by Jerry Finneman, the cinematographer, to light it that way.
Well, and I liked how they let us know right from the very beginning something was up with this guy. It wasn't like a slow build, like when the guys brought him aboard from the other ship, and they were like, well, we got to get going. Nice seeing you, Kirk.
Yeah.
And he's over their shoulder, and then I guess he gave them that look and made them say nice things about him.
Right.
And you're like, what's going on here?
His weird like eye thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do that around the house. It never worked on my mom. I go,
I always liked this episode because it bordered on horror.
Yes.
Very similar to that Billy Mummy episode of the Twilight Zone.
Oh, with the kid? Yeah.
Yeah, where he sends everybody to the cornfield.
Yeah, but at least in this one, like Charlie, he wanted people to like him and have respect. Where the other one, the kid was like, "If you don't like me, you're gone." Including
he
the
was
dog.
just a demon, that one. But Charlie was, he was likable, and you understood. Like when Kirk is talking to him about what do I do, he's trying to express his emotions as an adolescent, and Kirk says, you do what we all do, you hang on, you go slow, all that kind of stuff. It's a great speech. I really like it, and then he says, he starts going on about Janice, that she could love him, and he says no. He's telling him no for the first time as an authoritative figure, and he's hearing it, and he says, but I could make her it's wrong, it's not, and Kirk really lays it into him, and I love that scene.
Well, it's one of those episodes that kind of reinforces before Kirk got silly, which Kirk never really got silly in the TV show. It happened in the movies, but he was like not afraid of anybody or anything. Like in the scene where they're exercising and he's trying to teach, Charlie how to roll and to fight and all that kind of stuff. And he makes his buddy disappear, who I believe his name was Aaron, unless I was it Aaron? There was something familiar about the guy that he made disappear, his buddy. And I'm trying to remember what it was about his name that it made me go, oh.
You mean
anyway,
when they were doing the wrestling thing?
Yeah, the guy that was laughing at him. Don't laugh at me. Sam. That's what it was, because it reminded me of his brother's name was Sam later in in the episodes. That's what it was. But anyway, so Kirk just sees this kid make this guy disappear, and he doesn't he's like stunned for a second, but then he's right back in control.
Yes.
And Charlie, if you don't go with these guys, I'm going to pick you up and carry you there.
Yeah.
And so
the way he says it is so calm but threatening.
Yeah.
If you don't go to your quarters, I will pick you up and carry you there.
Yes.
He's just like an adult in his face.
Yep.
It's so great.
Yeah, and Charlie knows he can wipe him out, but he's like, Charlie's afraid of him,
Yeah.
and it's really, that's an interesting dynamic in that whole script.
Well, like when Charlie's getting checked out by Bones, he says that Captain Kirk, he's not like Captain such and such from the Antares.
Mhm.
And Bones says, "Oh no, Captain Kirk's one of a kind, Charlie."
Mhm.
You know, so they're already setting him up, you know, as this father figure and this, you know, badass, which we all know Captain Kirk is. You know, it's just so cool.
Well, it's funny because he doesn't really, aside from Kirk and Janice, Charlie has no interest in any other people, which I always thought if you were completely isolated, wouldn't you want, like, he does want everyone to like him, but even with the girl that is his age, he doesn't care. He has no care for if Spock likes him or not, or
Right,
McCoy, really. So I
right,
always thought that that was kind of interesting, like why he was so fixated on just two people.
yeah.
That's a good point. That is
Yeah,
interesting.
I suppose the only thing is he's never been with any people before, and so he fixates on his first woman he's ever seen, and the first man that is a powerful figure to him. You know, he's gravitated towards that. That's another great scene where they're playing chess, and you're
Mhm.
not in the game, Captain, and Kirk still beats him.
Yeah.
He said,
I wondered in that scene, I wonder if that was a Shatner thing where he's like, no, Kirk's got to win this game, you know? Because I know that there was people always complained that Shatner was like stepping on their lines, and you know,
right,
and Kirk would always like make changes and take other people's lines because he wanted Kirk to be the one to figure it out, not, you know, somebody else, that kind of thing.
right.
So
In a
I
lot of
wondered,
cases that worked, but there are some instances later on where you're like, "Wait a minute, he's the engineer. Wouldn't he think of this
yeah,
time,
or
this end, you know, this
Mhm.
thing, you know,
he
that
did a
kind of
couple
stuff."
times with Spock too. You're like, wait a
Right.
minute, Spock would have figured that one. I didn't need Kirk to
Yeah.
tell him, but
Yeah.
I thought that was
Ex
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he melts the see for me what was interesting as writing this episode must have been challenging is you got a kid who basically knows he can do anything he wants, right? But he is exercising some self-control at different times. Like
Mhm.
he could have made Spock disappear because he got pissed at him. Instead, he
Right.
just melts the chess pieces.
Well,
Right.
he
Right.
was smart enough to know not to show his powers, because I think he learned from the first ship, like, the second that they know I have superpowers, they're gonna turn on me, and they're
Right.
gonna be afraid of me, so he didn't want people to see that. But then
Right.
he melts
So
the thing. It's like, you don't think Spock's gonna notice that out of anyone?
but it was interesting because a lot of times
Well,
he would
Spock
turn.
wasn't there when he did it.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he found it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
well,
'Cause
somebody
Kirk
found it
confronted
because
him
then
with the
Kirk had it
pieces.
in his, you know, he confronted him about it.
But I just thought that was interesting rather than treating him like a kid that just had no self-control at all or any awareness. Charlie does, you know, and it's very telling in the scene in Janice's uh, room where Kirk and Spock come in there and he breaks Spock's legs, right? And uh, throws Kirk off of him. And he's like, you know, he basically says, you know, that he's in charge now and I can do anything I want and I can make anybody go away that I want to go away. And so and that's when he takes the ship basically. And it's interesting that he is this kid, but he does have some self-awareness and he does have some, albeit minor, self-control to direct, you know, who he wants, you know, I'm not gonna make all those people laughing disappear, but I'm gonna take away their faces, you know, or I'm gonna turn
Mhm.
that one cute girl into an iguana, you know. There and I know part of that's just sort of creative writing, right? What can we make him do that's more interesting? He's not doing the same thing all the time.
Mhm.
But it's also interesting, I think, that you take the character and give him a little bit of layers there where he is a little bit self-aware and he does kind of rationalize maybe in his own mind about what he's going to do to different people to achieve goals or to get out his frustration. And it's not always the same thing. So,
I was freaked out when I first saw this episode and the woman comes around the corner with no face on.
right.
Um,
Oh,
and
that freaked me
also
out.
when the younger woman turns the corner, the way they filmed it, she turns the corner and uh, then her body shudders, and it's now it's played by an old actress. You know, like
Mhm.
she aged her,
He was
and
in pants.
yeah, she who actually was wearing the pants outfit from the first Cage.
Probably didn't have good old lady legs. So they said we better cover those up.
Yeah, well, that's probably why. But they only had so many costumes to go around. This early in the show too, so they were cannibalizing stuff from the cage and from Where No Man Has Gone Before. Because you'll see people wearing the tunics and the pants and stuff from those other episodes in this episode.
Yeah, it was very creepy, and I think that that's a good point you brought up, that it was borderline kind of a horror episode because of it really not knowing what he was going to do, and then some of the things he chose to do. Again, make the old lady laid. Got the old lady laid. I don't think that's what he did. He turned that yeoman into a old lady, which when you're a kid watching that show, that's scary. We don't, because we look in the mirror and go, yeah, she looks about my age. But when I was a kid, it was like, that was scary, and of course the girl with no face and then the lizard and all those different things. So it was kind of that sense of dread hanging over this whole episode, which was kind of good.
Yeah.
It never scared me. I always thought more like he was just a creeper. I don't know. I wanted him to die so bad, and it always irritates me that he doesn't die because he just drives me crazy. I'm like, oh my God, just kill this annoying
Wait a minute.
kid.
How many episodes have we done now? Like every episode, there's somebody that Anna wants to die in the episode. Why did
Not
they just kill
savage
that
enough
guy
for
from
me.
the Corbomite maneuver? Why did they just kill him? I hated that guy.
Listen, they kill enough red shirts. They kill the villains sometimes.
That's true.
But this is like one of the few where Spock and McCoy are more so on the same page when not Spock and McCoy. Yeah, Spock and McCoy. Because they're talking about Thasians, because Spock is the first one that even mentions Thasians, and he's talking to McCoy about it, and he's like, oh, did he mention anything about Thasians? There's no way he could have lived. And when Spock was playing chess with him, he was obviously testing him. But I always thought it was kind of interesting that Spock never brought it up to him. Like, why he never questioned Charlie on it? Like, he just
like when
watches
they're
him
playing
from afar.
chess. Like, why didn't he say, hey, what about those Thasians?
Or like just asked him, hey, you were trapped on this planet. Did you ever see any remnants of Thasians? You grew up on here. Did you see any like remnants of it? Did you get any kind of weird feelings? But Spock never says anything to Charlie. He only talks about it with McCoy, and then later.
I wondered.
I always thought that was interesting.
My feeling was that, and again, maybe I'm bringing this myself to the table, but I always thought that Spock thought something was up.
Oh, he definitely thought something was up.
More so than anybody else. And he was like putting together a scenario.
Well, he was like, there's no way this story checks out. Like, absolutely not.
Right. Where it seemed like, Bones and Kirk were like slow on the uptake, figuring this stuff out, but Spock, and we've seen this before in other episodes, where he doesn't really want to give his opinion until he's sure of what he thinks. And so I always
humans
felt
have
like
more empathy and compassion, whereas Spock's just looking at the facts, and he's like, there is no possible way this kid could have just survived off of rations and then random food in the wilderness. There's no way. There's got to be another.
Speaking of Spock, there's still remnants of old Spock in this episode, where he gets agitated. He smiles. Especially in the rec room, when he's playing his little harp thing, and Uhura is singing to him, and basically digging on him, and he kind of gives like an exasperated, look on his face. So there's still remnants of old Spock here. He hasn't gone completely emotionless yet,
Well, and I also thought that, I think I brought this up last week, that they were still it seemed to me like they were still sort of playing with that Uhura Spock relationship in this episode just a little bit with her. She was, again, you could either look at it like the same thing with the, what episode was it that she was flirting with Spock? It was, dang it, I can't remember. And when he was in the captain's chair, Graham, what episode was that?
When Spock was in the captain's chair?
Yeah, and Uhura came down and was flirting with
the
him.
one we just did? Mantrap.
Oh, yeah, it was Mantrap, right. Yeah. So in that episode, you could look at it like Uhura's flirting with him or she's messing with him. And I got that exact...
she's messing with him. I never got the vibe that she was flirting with him.
Well, but you could look at it the same way in this Charlie X episode, right? Was she messing with him again, or was she flirting with him? Because I had never thought of her flirting with him until Graham brought up the point that they were exploring that as a possibility. So now every time I see that, I'm thinking, are they messing?
I think in this one, Aaron, she was messing with him because it's Janice's nod that instigates Uhura to go over to Spock.
That's true.
Yeah, because Janice goes like, hey, go give it to him.
Yeah.
So I think she was messing with him. But in the Man Trap, there's no doubt that she's definitely sort of hitting on him.
Yeah, I don't know. I never got that vibe. Maybe I just don't like those kind of shipping things. Like those must have been the 2 episodes that J.J. Abrams watched when he was doing his Star Trek.
No, I think he watched the Alternative Factor. And maybe And the Children Shall Lead.
Ugh.
Well, I wait till we get, I mean, we've been all pretty positive about these episodes. When we get to a couple of those third season. Well, I guess Alternative Factor wasn't third season. It was first season, wasn't it?
First season, yeah.
Yeah. I never liked that episode, but I didn't hate it as much as you guys apparently do.
Yeah, it's the worst episode of season 1.
Definitely, I agree with that.
Lazarus?
Yeah.
You like that better than Lazarus?
Huh?
No, that is Lazarus, isn't it? The Alternative Factor, isn't that Lazarus?
That's Lazarus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
man.
the worst one of season 1.
I'm out of it today.
By a long
You're
shot.
still bouncing back.
I am.
Mr. Bacon for a $5 super chat.
Hi,
Hooray,
Russell.
Russell. Hooray, Commander Anna is back. We were all afraid Peaches red-shirted you so he could elope with Cecil. I lost $10
God.
plus the $5 for the super chat.
Sorry, Russell.
Thank you, Russell, for this one, but I ain't going to read it.
Is this all due to your inspiration, Anna? Is this Russell?
I don't think it's inspiration. I think it's insanity. But that's Russell for you.
I always I watch some of the comments about you in the chat, and I'm just like, man, they give her such a hard time. I have to watch your show more often and see what's going on there that I'm missing out on.
Mostly Jack show stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of inside jokes that might look bad in comments.
Out of context.
Yes.
I think it would have been cool for them to revisit the Thasians. As
tried that concept over and over again, even with like the Squire of Gothos.
Yeah, very similar. The boy that was it was almost the same story, wasn't
it? And then what's the other one with the Klingons where they want the one planet and they seem to be medieval, but they're actually all powerful.
All those.
That episode.
Well, yeah. What was the name of that? I can't even remember the name of those.
And it's like them and the Klingons fighting over the planet. And then you find out
that the appearance of the Klingons.
And then they're mad that they kept them from fighting.
Yeah, and that's where the Organian peace treaty.
Organian, that's it.
Yeah, the Organian peace treaty. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like the super powerful beings.
Yeah,
it's always
they're so powerful that they can, freeze their armadas no matter where they were in space. It makes you wonder: are the Organians like part of like a Q collective or something, or?
Yeah, I feel like it was that, and then like the nomad concept of like a humanoid robot.
A robot that takes on a personality.
Like that has a soul. It's like all powerful beings and then robot with soul is the 2 ongoing themes in Star Trek.
I wonder how much of that is Roddenberry's lack of faith.
Was he an atheist?
If he wasn't an atheist, I think he was an agnostic. I mean, but and I think he became that way more so later on. But there are, and I don't know if it was just stuff that he let go by in scripts, like in Bread and Circuses, where they're talking about the sun god and all that kind of stuff, and then it's Uhura at the very end. It says, they don't worship the sun. It's the Son of God, and that's when they realize Rome and Christ and all this happening in another place of the universe. And I found that particular episode very, very powerful and cool, and sort of going against the grain of some of Roddenberry's tenets, of humanism, You know, it's all about humanism and the great human experience and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, he doesn't have a lot of faith in a higher being, in a God, you know.
Well, I also wonder from a more practical standpoint of if this was, you know, we get the crew in just situations that they cannot get out of, and the only way to get them out of it is have an all-powerful being show up and rescue them. Like what are they going to do with Charlie X? I mean, I guess they could have figured out a way to make him, knock him out and then kill him, but you don't want to do that, right? And then same with Squire of Gothos. You got this all-powerful guy they can't deal with.
Well, they kind of were beating him by turning on the entire ship, like every single device, and Charlie was just overloaded. So it was either he was going to get saved or they were going to somehow overpower him to where he implodes. So
Yeah,
they
I
were
think
kind of beating him.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, but would he could have, I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, he could have given up the ship and then started tormenting them personally, you know what I mean? Or make them disappear or whatever. So, I mean, eventually, like the guy even said it, when they, that old man that, face appeared said, eventually he's going to destroy you or you're going to be forced to destroy him, which is, kind of the inevitability of where that episode was going. And they obviously don't want the heroes to kill this kid. And they can't obviously have the kid kill the heroes because they have an ongoing show. So what do? You bring in an all
that'd be bad.
that solves their problems. So, and they did that more, like I said, Anna, they did that more than once. So you just kind of wonder sometimes if they maybe writers backed themselves into a corner and said, well, I guess we got to bring in another all powerful being to get them out of it.
I thought it was more of the concept that like sometimes because they are so powerful, usually Starfleet does have the upper hand, that it's like, oh, that's a much bigger universe and you're smaller than you actually thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, yeah, there is that. Yeah.
So I thought I don't see it as someone writing him into a corner. Maybe in some episodes, yeah, and they just kind of got lost. But I mean, the Squire of Gothos, I thought it was funny that he was a kid, like full-grown man, like middle-aged man, but he's actually a child.
Right,
I didn't
right.
see that coming at all in that epised.
Yeah.
And that is my favorite
Plot
crewman.
twist.
I have some thoughts on that episode, but I'll save it for that show.
Well, he's a Klingon too later.
Yeah. In Trouble with Tribbles.
It's funny how they reused actors, right? Like I was watching I guess I should. Well, I was watching Omega Glory, and the white-haired guy who
the actor's name is something Morgan. And he was in
the Dagger in
the Mind.
Yeah. And they were both, well, I guess Omega Glory was second season, so I guess they were a season apart, but I always thought that was kind of unusual that, and Spock's dad, of course, was a Romulan, but then becomes Spock's dad, that they would use the same actor for a different role in the same series.
Well, the actor who was the Thasian in this one, the green head that was floating there, he is also the voice of the Malkotian in Spectre of the Gun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you think it was just a matter of convenience, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, we worked this guy before; he's good. We'll just get him." Rather than,
I think so.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of girls that they continuously reuse, like the episode where they're doing the battle that's all on the computer, and they're like, "Oh, you have to go into the incinerator." Like she is also in she's the wife of the Greek guy,
right? And she's also Trelane's mother.
Yeah. So she's in a bunch. She's always just a random brand new character. And then the one lady, I don't know her name. She was Dr. Polanski in The Next Gen, but she's in a few episodes. Yep. She's in the one where the gods and they go into that brain.
Yeah.
And then she's the blind woman with
yeah. She was in twice. That's right.
Yeah, Diana Muldaur.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I never liked her because even when she was young and good looking, she seemed old.
It's her voice, I think. She has a very mature voice.
Yeah, she's just always bitchiness about her.
Yeah. Smile. She's like.
And I didn't like her in Next Gen as Dr. Pulaski either. I thought she was
anybody liked her.
Yeah.
It's funny how you become an actor or an actress and not have a likable personality unless you're playing bad guys all the time.
Yeah. It's like Richard Widmark. The guy's always a prick.
Yeah, but he usually played a bad guy though, right? So
But even when he's playing like the general, he's
that's
a
true.
prick of a general. You know,
Yeah.
he's always yelling everything. He's always spitting his lines out. Yeah, I just saw Panic. How was it? Not Panic in the Park. Panic in the Streets. Where he plays a doctor who Jack Palance has killed this guy who's brought pneumonic plague into New Orleans. And he's got to track down everybody this guy's been in contact with, including Jack Palance and Zero Mostel and some other people. And, so he's a good guy here, but he's still a dick. I wish Ron was here because I wanted to talk about, on the, I think it was the one of the first episodes we did. He was talking about how he had been watching The Outer Limits, and he had seen this episode called Fun and Games with Nick Adams, and he thought that it was like the precursor to Arena, because these two people get picked off of Earth and they're pitted against these two alien creatures, and their planets are the stakes. So it's basically the same plot. So I watched it the other day on YouTube, and yeah, it's a really cool, solid sci-fi story, very similar to the story of Arena. And there is a Star Trek connection, because the alien mask that they use for these aliens that they're fighting was reused in The Cage. It was that ape creature that was next to Captain Pike's cage. You see very briefly when they kind of pan around to show you some of these other aliens, but only they added fur to it and fur to his shoulders and stuff to make him look like this ape type thing. But that's the exact same mask that they used in that episode.
Recycling in Hollywood,
Yeah,
man. Who would
and
have
that's a
thought?
cool Star Trek connection.
Well, it sounds like you guys are describing that. I haven't seen it, but the Twilight Zone episode you said with Billy Mooney, where sounds like is very similar to Charlie X, right? So
You never watched it with the monster?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that many Twilight episodes. I used to watch a lot of Night Gallery for some reason, but we didn't. Twilight Zone episode.
You must go out on New Year's Eve, because on the Sci-Fi Channel on New Year's Eve they show the Twilight Zone marathon.
He has a life.
Every year.
I don't. I just am unaware of stuff. I hardly watch.
They were really good. I hated when they made them an hour. I liked the shorter Twilight Zone episodes. The second they got longer, I was like, I feel like they just overcomplicated it and dragged it out. Like that submarine episode, which is the first hour-long one. I hate that episode so much.
Now, The Outer Limits were typically an hour long.
Right.
But, the Twilight Zone was primarily morality plays that dipped into fantasy, a little bit of horror, and a little bit of sci-fi, but they're primarily morality plays. Whereas like The Outer Limits was straight up sci-fi.
Right.
It was Monster of the Week sci-fi.
I always felt like The Outer Limits, like every episode had some guy's brain getting big, so his head got really big. Like that period of DC Comics where everybody's head got big.
That was big. That was big in the 50s.
Big heads were huge back then.
Don't you think Charlie X had a big head?
Yes, he did.
Had all of the weight on the top of his head.
Yes, it was like a triangle. It went up like that. Yeah,
he could have been.
And his haircut did not help him.
No,
yeah. He's got a melon head compared to like Shatner's got a good size head, because he can stand next to a guy that's 6 foot tall, like Nimoy, on a box, and still look like they're proportional together.
Right.
Charlie stood next to Kirk, and he looked like he should have been like 6'4" with that head. He had like Humphrey Bogart head.
Frankenstein without the makeup, man.
Yeah.
Seriously. Everything about him was weird. So I guess they did right with the casting. They got like creepy, not teenager with a creepy head and face. Like
he was great. One of my a favorite John Wayne movie of mine is The War Wagon. And Robert Walker Jr. plays this alcoholic dynamiter, who's an expert at dynamite and stuff, but he's an alcoholic. And they got to use them to blow up this bridge so they can get the war wagon and the gold that's in it. So it's basically a heist movie, and he's in it, and he's really good in it. And the girl that's in it that becomes his girlfriend plays the anti-Nazi fighter in Patterns of Force too. So another Star Trek connection.
Isn't that funny how often, like on my Sunday show, I'm always looking for like Quinn Martin television shows, because they always would have the name of the episode and the guy would go, tonight's episode, Thunder Pants, or whatever it is. I would steal those to run at the beginning of my Sunday show. And in order to get to the title of the episode, you have to go through all the guest stars. And I'm constantly seeing guys that guest starred in Star Trek that are now guest starring on the streets of San Francisco, or Cannon, or Barnaby Jones.
Barnaby Jones.
A Quinn Martin production.
Yeah.
I could never understand. If you ever watch, this is talk about going off the rails, but if you guys ever watch Barnaby Jones, right? If you see the pilot of Barnaby Jones, the pilot he's retiring from being a detective, private detective, right, and his son is taking over, right? And Lee Merriweather is his son's wife. And the son gets killed in the first case he takes over for Barnaby Jones. So Barnaby Jones has to go back into action to solve the case, right? That's the pilot.
Right.
Well, so the pilot, he's so old, he's retiring, but then he becomes a detective again for another 7 years of episodes. And you're just like, how old
couldn't drop it.
Guy? Yeah, he's like 90 years old by the time the series gets canceled. I better retire now.
Well, you got old Barnaby Jones, you got fat Cannon.
Yes.
Only Mannix was like a two-fisted guy.
Yeah, that's right. All the other guys were like health hazards.
And David Vincent from The Invaders.
Yes.
Have you guys ever seen The Intruder?
Was that a British movie or is that a television show?
It's a movie.
I know the name of it. And the guy like an alien, but he was like a good alien or something.
No.
Okay.
This
is it with Dennis Quaid?
Nope.
What year did it come out?
It came out in 1962. It's a Roger Corman film. Now, Roger Corman was the king of low budget films. And
Captain Kirk.
Yes, every movie he made money, except for The Intruder. And The Intruder is the only movie he made that garnered awards. And it never made any money because the content was a race baiter goes into this southern town to stir up the population against
that's right.
The black kids going to the school. And it's William Shatner who is the intruder.
That's right.
And he is so good in this movie that he won an award. The film won awards at these festivals and stuff like that. But it lost money, and it ties into what's happening with comics and Comicsgate in that Roger Corman took from that was that the message was everything. And it did not hold itself on entertainment. And he realized you have to be entertainment first. You can sneak the message in later if you want to, but you can't have message heavy without the entertainment. And that's why it failed at the box office. And I thought that was very interesting. And here's another Star Trek tie-in. 2 of the actors that are playing bit parts in there, one is George Clayton Johnson, and the other is William F. Nolan. And if those names sound familiar, it's because we talked about them earlier in our shows. George Clayton Johnson was the writer of Mantrap.
Yes.
And George Clayton Johnson and William F. Nolan were the writers of the book Logan's Run.
Really?
And they were both bit part actors in this movie, in The Intruder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My favorite low budget film story. It's not a story. This is more just like a one-liner kind of thing. But there was a movie. Do you remember the movie called Q? And it was William Castle produced it, right?
Okay.
But it was color film, and it was in the 70s, and I want to say that it was this flying like pterodactyl that lived in New York City and was picking people off right over. And Michael Moriarty, the guy that was the original DA in Law and Order,
Yeah,
he was like this crazy guy that controlled this prehistoric thing. And I think David Carradine was in it too. I don't know. But anyway, so there was a great
so far it
line.
sounds horrible.
Yeah, well, there's a great line from Rex Reed. Rex Reed was talking about this movie, and I was reading this thing, and he said he went up to William Castle after seeing the premiere of this movie, and he said, you know, amidst all this dreck, he goes, there's this great method performance by Michael Moriarty in this film. And then William Castle goes, yeah, the dreck was my idea.
Well, at least he owned it, right?
Yeah, he owned it.
You got to give a man credit for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I've been doing deep dives into like old Shatner stuff on YouTube, stuff that he did in the 50s and 60s. I just recently watched his he did a failed pilot for Nero Wolfe, and he played Nero Wolfe's assistant, I guess. And I guess the character in the Nero Wolfe books, who's the assistant, his name is Archie Goodwin.
really?
Do you know who Archie Goodwin is, Anna?
No, I don't know anyone by name.
Oh my gosh.
Archie Goodwin.
I'll Google.
Well, Archie Goodwin is one of the most beloved editors and writers in comic history.
Let me see.
I worked with him on the Bat titles, and you know, he's very, very well known and much loved.
Well, you know,
If they're not in Star Wars or Star Trek, I don't know them by name.
You know, in Shatner's autobiography, I don't know if you guys ever read that. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember trying to read it one time. We were flying to Australia way back in, it was 94 or something.
Star Trek Memories?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. And it cracks me up because he's so, how should we say? He's not shy about complimenting himself. And he described himself as being this, you know, before he got the opportunity to do Star Trek, he was, how did he phrase it in that book? That I was quite the thing, or quite the up and coming popular actor, or something like that, you know, describing himself. And probably based on, I mean, he had that period of time in the early 60s, like you said, The Intruder. He did that pilot, the Nero Wolfe pilot, but he also did the Lawrence of Arabia, Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great, yeah.
And was in Twilight Zone episodes, you know, there's a man on the wing, and there was also a Night Gallery, I think he was in, where the picture comes to life and kills him, or, you know, hatches.
No, that's Thriller.
Thriller, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I forgot about that one, yeah.
He was around a lot in a lot of different things.
He was with Spencer Tracy in the Nuremberg trials.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He was in that. That's right. Did you know that Marlon Brando originally wanted the role that they gave to Maximilian Schell? And he went to, dang it, who was the director? I almost said Kubrick, but it's not Kubrick. It was, I'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, so he was in there, Brando, you know, begging to get this role, but they had seen Maximilian Schell do the stage play or whatever that this was based on. And they just thought his performance was so good that they kept him in the role, and, you know, kind of didn't give Brando the role. And of course, Maximilian Schell got nominated and won for Best Actor. And they said that it was the only actor, he was listed farther down in the credit. He has the record for being listed farthest down in the credits and still winning an Academy Award, because it was like Spencer Tracy, like you said, was in it. It was
Burt Lancaster.
Burt Lancaster. There was like a couple other guys that were, you know, much bigger names than him. And then Maximilian Schell got fifth billing, and he was the one who won the Oscar. So
what movie was this?
Judgment at Nuremberg.
Judgment at Nuremberg.
Haven't seen it.
Basically,
It-
Nazi war trial.
Yeah,
After-
it's the Nazi war trial. Yeah, basically.
Is it good?
It's
Yeah.
very good. Yeah.
really.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah. So that was, and of course, Shatner was in it. He didn't get
Yep.
nominated, but can't all.
He just had a small role. He was like Spencer Tracy's. I'm not sure if it was his driver or he was a military guy. I
He
can't
said,
remember.
"General, can I get these papers for you?" And that was his line. And they said,
I
"What
just
was-"
watched this one too, Kingdom of the Spiders, the other
Oh,
day.
that is laughably good. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Where he's crawling up the stairs and the tarantulas are all over him, and he's like, "Ugh, ugh."
Rack. His name is
Yeah.
Rack.
Yeah. And they're
And
like,
then they give him a backstory about why he's called Rack, because he and his brother, his brother was a gambler, and they were playing pool, and he'd always like get Shatner to because he'd beat him at pool, and he'd always say rack him, and so Rack is like stuck. Like, really? Do we need to know that? I mean,
well, I was
Okay.
curious of like when he was barely making it up those stairs, those tarantulas. I was like, how heavy are those things that he can just crawl in? They're so heavy, I can't make it up the stairs.
yeah,
You-
they paid
Go
$10
Indiana
for each
Jones
one of
and
those
start running,
tarantulas.
man. Oh well.
Have you ever seen that one, Anna? Kingdom of the Spiders? No.
Listen,
Look what
I
you
have
missed
two
out on.
main interests. They're called Star Wars and Star Trek.
That's why she's
Yeah,
the
but
Star Wars girl.
don't you dovetail off like, okay, you love Star Wars, but do you watch like Harrison Ford movies because he was in Star Wars?
Not really.
Really?
I want it. Well, I mean, Indiana Jones, yeah, but I think
Right.
I haven't seen a lot
How
of
about
his
Mark
movies.
Hamill? Did you ever watch his movie?
I stopped after I watched that stupid Mustang movie.
Yeah. the Corvette
Oh my
Camry
god,
name,
I
or-
was like, this is not Luke Skywalker.
You know who's
I
not
don't want
Luke
it to
Skywalker?
ruin.
Luke Skywalker.
yeah, no,
I
Luke
know,
Skywalker's
I know.
no
And
longer
now
Luke
I follow
Skywalker.
him on Twitter, and I'm like, I wish I didn't see any of this.
Oh, I know.
Wow.
I know.
It'll ruin it for me. So I'm like, I don't want to see any of them and anything else. Like even with like the cast of Lord of the Rings, like I don't want to watch any of their other movies because I don't want to see them any differently. But I was really limited on what I could watch because we didn't have cable and it was down to whatever my parents were willing to buy. So
Okay.
Hmm.
yeah. So if my parents didn't want to watch it, we didn't watch it. And if my parents had already seen it, they weren't gonna buy it again. So
Well, so would you only, even today, I mean, are you only interested in like fantasy sci-fi type films, or, are you following genres, or
well,
do you
now
have a
I live with
broader
a
taste?
boy, so I'm forced to watch whatever he wants to watch when he gets control of the remote.
Okay, before that though, the real you. I mean, is it just? I mean,
Well, now because I have to watch really bad stuff because of YouTube, I'm just like, I don't want to watch something I can't trust. So I take people's recommendations on if things are good or not. And sometimes that bites me in the ass. Like the other day, I for the first time finally turned on The Godfather Part 2, and I hate The Godfather 1. And so I tried watching it and I was like, I want to blow my fucking brains out. This is even worse than the first movie.
oh my god!
I made it
it's
to the
so
scene where they
good.
get the carpet and I passed out. I
Oh.
was like, I can't do this anymore.
How
I
can you
hate
not
everyone.
like The Godfather?
Oh,
It's terrible.
oh
I don't
my
know
god!
what planet you live on where you think The Godfather is good.
Oh my
I think it's a
god!
conspiracy theory against me. Like
It's
all
an
of you guys are
amazing
in on
film.
it.
I
Oh my
don't know.
God.
Maybe it is just a guy's movie. I don't know.
Mm.
But in your heart of hearts, do you care about anything other than sci-fi and fantasy?
Yeah, no, if they're good. Like so outside of sci-fi and fantasy, my favorite movie is Silence of the Lambs.
Well, yeah, but you can still argue that's kind of a horror film,
Horror,
and it kind of
sci-fi,
fits
I
into
don't I
that.
guess it's like suspense thriller is what I always got because it didn't really scare me, or I guess there's no jump scares or anything like that.
All right, favorite Western.
High Noon
Westworld.
probably. I really like Gary Cooper.
Oh, look at that! Hey.
Okay. So you
Well,
like you
also
like
the
you like the communist Western.
well, no, the reason why I like that one is because where it was filmed, I used to go there a lot when I was a kid, so they would
Oh.
always have, like, specials
Where
and
was
stuff,
it? Where was it filmed at?
up in Sonora, California. Well, it's by Sonora, but it's in this town called Columbia, so it was bigger than Los Angeles at one time. It was the biggest city in California. Excuse me, San Francisco was still the biggest city, but it was the second largest city, because of the gold mine. So when I was a kid, we would go up there because it was only like a 45-minute bus ride. And so we would go see the mines, and then that's where they filmed that movie, and then Little House on the Prairie. So I guess that's just because of the nostalgia. It's the one that I grew up with.
Okay.
I'll accept that though. That's a legit reason. It's a legit movie, you know.
It is. It's definitely a good movie. But,
I liked the Jackie Chan one. That one was funny. Shanghai Noon.
Oh, Shanghai.
I loved that when I was a kid. My mom loved Jackie Chan movies, and when I was a kid, I feel like he was in the height of his career, so there was always a new Jackie Chan movie. And his cowboy ones were cool. Five Goes West is a good cowboy movie.
Actually, I like that. You know, I like that. Jimmy Stewart plays the old dog. Yeah.
I like Jimmy
Tombstone
Stewart
is
and the Man
good.
Who
Does
Shot
that
Liberty
count?
Valance. It's better.
What was that, Anna?
Tombstone is good.
I like
Not my
Tombstone.
favorite.
Tombstone's
but-
good.
I'm a
Yep,
big
that's-
Kurt Russell fan, though. I'll go
Yeah.
see just about anything he's in.
Yeah,
He's gonna
I
draw
feel
that
like-
smoke wagon or sit there and bleed.
Yeah.
It's a
yeah,
great line.
my favorite of his is just it's always gonna be The Thing though. That one is
Oh, I love that movie.
Mm.
Well, it's the Carpenter trilogy, right? Escape from New York, The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China. I love all three of those movies.
I don't like Big Trouble.
You don't like Big Trouble?
No, I don't
Anna?
like that. I'm not big on Escape from New York. And oh, bless you.
Bless you,
Thank you.
dear.
And as far as The Thing goes, I like it.
But yeah, because you prefer the original. So anything that
Yeah.
So
I prefer the original and the book.
You
Well,
like
they
the
said that-
original. It doesn't even have cool special effects.
But it's got characters you care about.
I cared
That's-
more
that-
about the characters in The Thing, the Kurt Russell
Oh.
one.
Tell me what any one of them does for a living. Except
They're
for the
scientists in
doctor.
Antarctica.
Except for the doctor. That's the only one you know. What does Childs
I
do?
don't need to know what they do.
But there's scientists up there. And the first
Tell
time we
me
meet
what
them,
any
they're
of them
playing ping
do.
pong.
Okay, an Alien. Tell me what any of them aside from Sigourney Weaver, the robot, and the captain.
Dallas,
do.
who's the captain.
Dallas
You know
was the
he's
captain. The girl was the pilot. The two guys were the mechanics.
Okay. Yeah. I don't remember what any of them.
You know, that's a really interesting point, Graham, that you really don't know who the characters are. But it's that I love the sense of paranoia and just as a
They get you in the beginning with the dog.
Mhm.
Everybody loves the dog.
Oh yeah.
we don't need to know anything about the dog, and we still love the dog.
Yeah, what was the dog's job? Did you not care
Hold it-
about him when they're
hold
shooting
it.
at the poor dog?
Pull the sled. That was his job. You don't like Big Trouble in Little China?
I
Do you,
don't.
Anna?
I tried to watch that a few
I've never
times.
seen it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just.
I
all
know,
over
I
the
know.
map.
I
I
know.
just
I
Big
need
Trouble in
to
Little
see
China is like Napoleon Dynamite. The more you watch it, the better it gets.
it.
but the
Okay.
first
Now, I
time-
think one of my favorite Carpenter films is The Fog.
You just like the pirates, so you can go, arr.
I like it because it's a ghost story.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a great ghost story.
Yeah.
You know, it's got great atmosphere. It's got cool characters you care about. It's got
Adrian Barbeau.
Adrian Barbeau and all that entails.
The scope of her
The scope of her talents.
yes.
Have you ever you grew up in California? Do you know where that is? That area where they filmed The Fog? There's that lighthouse. There's a famous lighthouse, and they walk down to it. I think
Know
it's
the
in
name of the town?
Northern California. I know it's near where Kelly Jones lives because Kelly's been to it.
That would have been well, let's see. Anna's gonna get the facts.
Is it near Piedras Blancas? Possibly.
I need to. I'm looking.
Because that was another sci-fi movie, The Monster of Piedras Blancas.
Was it where Jimmy Stewart chased Kim Novak up into the
Oh,
Bell
the
Tower?
Cloisters or whatever that was.
Do they ever say the name of the town?
Not in the movie, but it's it's been out in the press, where it was filmed.
I'm sure I've been in the area. I don't know, not off the top of my head. I'm looking at the lighthouse and I'm like, it looks like every other lighthouse. I haven't watched this movie since I was probably like 4.
Really?
So
God, I love that
Antonio.
movie. I watch it every year around Halloween.
Jay Bama fan is sitting in the chat going, Star Trek?
I know, right? I know we're getting out of my depth here. Let me see.
We covered everything that we can for it's an hour show. And we've covered everything we can for Charlie X. We've dovetailed into other Shatner movies and the tie-ins with Star Trek. So get off our back, Jay Bama fan.
That's right. We can only do so much.
That's right. What do you want for nothing?
This is free
That's
entertainment.
Right.
Maybe that's
entertainment.
a bit of an exaggeration there, but we're trying to entertain anyway.
Now, for a $20 super chat, I'm willing
That's
to
right.
listen
We'll
to
go
you.
right back and talk about Charlie X's haircut.
Oh yeah, it's right outside of San Francisco in Marin.
Is that where it is?
Marin County.
Yeah, it says Point Reyes. I'm sure I've been in the area.
Okay.
but
Because you're more.
I don't know. There's a lot of
SoCal, right?
lighthouses in California.
Oh, I'm sure. It makes sense that it might be near San Diego because of how high it is. You know, like Adrian Barbeau's got to walk down 1,000,000 steps to get to the entrance to that.
Which was your favorite scene, probably.
Oh no,
Yeah,
Marin is
down the
north of
steps.
San Francisco.
It's north of San Francisco?
Yeah, it's on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's all Marin County.
Isn't that
That's where
where
George
Clint
Lucas
Eastwood was
lived.
mayor? Clint Eastwood was mayor there, wasn't he?
No, he was in
Carmel.
Carmel, which is south.
Oh, Carmel, that's right. Yeah.
Mhm. No, Marin is where George Lucas lived. That's where the Skywalker Ranch
Right.
is.
Right,
That's
right.
That's right. What do you think he's doing with all of his money right now?
Having
Well,
his
he's
goiter
old.
removed?
He's
Yeah, I'm getting
old and
George
he has
Lucas neck.
He's got a 6-year-old daughter, so he's probably just being dad and being old.
Whoa, slow down. Wait a minute.
Player. George is a player. He's
When
using
He
the
got
force.
married.
Who
It's his first
mothered his-
biological child.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, what is he, 80? 75?
old.
He's got to be close to 80, right?
Yeah, no, he's almost 80.
Yeah.
Who's the mother?
He got married to a woman named Melody Hubson, and she was one of the directors of DreamWorks. And they got married in 2012 and had their daughter via surrogate. So right after all the Disney stuff happened, which I was always suspicious about because I was like, oh, you marry a woman from DreamWorks and then you sell to Disney. But yeah, they got a daughter. Her name's Everest, and
How old was she? Oh, well, it was a
She's
surrogate.
2013 was when she was born. So actually, I guess 10 now, or 10 or 11.
So
I mean, how old was the wife?
Oh, she's it's hard to tell because she's black and black don't crack, but she looks nice for her age. I think she's in her 50s, maybe.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's not crazy. It's not like he married some 23-year-old chippy or something.
Yeah, no. And she seems really nice in all of her interviews that she does. We got to see them because I'm from Modesto. So that year that they were together, like right after they got married, he was like the grand marshal of the American Graffiti Parade. And so got to see him. Like, well, I was shocked at how short he was, but I don't know.
Oh, is he short?
Cool. Yeah. He's like 5, 6, or 7.
Oh, no kidding. Oh,
Yeah,
that makes sense though. When I see pictures of him when he's
Hollywood,
thin,
man.
you know, he looks shorter when he's thinner.
Hollywood is the home of short people. I want to move to Hollywood just so I can feel like a giant.
You are a giant, though.
Well, I'm above average in height, but I don't know if I call myself a giant.
I don't know. I don't see very many tall people where I live, but
well, you're Southern California.
I'm in Orange County.
Oh, you're
I'm
in
like
Orange County?
Huntington
Okay.
Beach area.
Well, that's Hollywood light. So, I'm still shocked that, I walked by Danny Trio and I thought it was a little kid.
Oh yeah. He's like 5'6", isn't he?
If that.
Yeah.
I could not believe how short tiny he was. I was like, this is that rough guy that everybody's afraid of. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Listen, that's all for some Mexicans.
Ask Jimmy Reyes.
Yeah. Poor little Jimmy. Poor tiny little Jimmy.
Well, we got a good one coming up next week, guys. Balance of Terror.
Oh, I just watched that one recently, and I'll watch it again because I love that episode.
Yes, that is one of the greats. So let's do our rating.
Yep, let's do it.
Anna, Charlie X.
I think like a 4.
Wow, you're tough.
Brutal.
Okay.
I don't. It's not like if I used Anna's watchability chart, it would rank really, really low because it's one I never choose to watch, but it's a good episode. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you guys right now that most first season episodes for me are going to get an 8. Unless they really screw something up, or like coming up next week, you're going to see higher than an 8. But
Hey, I was 8 on Man Trap. So
yep. So I'm going to give, because of the performances, the writing, the script was nearly perfect in that it's the one script that Gene Roddenberry had to do the least amount of doctoring on. He did very, very little because DC Fontana just knocked it out of the park, and everybody from the production crew, from Desilu, from NBC thought that, wow, this girl's got a career ahead of her. And it turns out she did.
Mhm.
But she was still his secretary when she did this. And later on, she'll quit that job and become a full-time writer, freelance writer for Star Trek. But because of all of that, I give this one an 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Really
it's hard for me sometimes because a lot of these episodes, I look at them technically just kind of in a vacuum and say, this is a good episode, but for whatever personality traits I have or whatever, it just one I don't like that much. And that's the problem with Charlie X. It wasn't one that I just never did anything for me, although I appreciate, especially rewatching it again as I did. It's a good episode, but just not, I'm looking for a little more adventure, I think, than we're going to get next week.
Okay.
I don't think it's a terrible episode. I guess it's just I really don't rewatch this one because I just don't like him.
No,
So
that's
I think
the same way.
it's one of those things that on paper it hits a lot of boxes, and it's a lot better than some other episodes, but it's just not as enjoyable to me. But there's aspects of it that I like. I like that McCoy and Spock aren't as bickery in this episode. I like everything that Kirk does. I think Kirk does a great job in this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Janice is good too. Everyone is good. It just I really don't like Charlie. So I guess for me, it's like if there's one character that ruins it for me, I'm just like, I don't even want to watch this because I can't stand that guy.
It's part of the story, though. Is I don't think you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to think he's creepy and weird and different.
I mean, some villains. I mean, you like them. Like I like in Next Gen with Q. Like the cast doesn't like Q, but I was like, Q is a charming villain, I guess.
Do you mean the cast didn't like Delancey?
No, like
the characters.
Okay, like they can't stand Q because Q fucks everything up. God damn it, Q's here again. But it's like, oh, but he's a fun villain. Like there's some episodes where they're just good villains, so it's enjoyable. Where Charlie, I'm like, it's an annoying kid, and I'm like, and I'm not getting paid to babysit, so I'm like, oh.
That is so good because that's exactly how I felt when I watched The Goonies. I was is this, I'm paying and they're making me babysit these screaming kids for 2 hours. I was like, oh, I cannot stand that movie.
I'm with you.
You guys don't like The Goonies?
I can't stand it. Every kid yells his line. There's all it is yelling.
Yelling and screaming and annoying. Look at you. You just said you didn't want to babysit Charlie X, and yet you don't feel like you're babysitting when you watch The Goonies? Oh.
Well, no, sometimes I do because I'm the oldest sibling. So I remember like when my sisters would do stupid shit. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, But they go on an adventure. They find the pirate treasure. It's fun.
Hang on a second. Graham, she can't stand The Godfather, but she loves The Goonies.
I know.
Listen, The Godfather, I think every person.
There we go.
Oh God. They're all terrible and they all deserve to die. Michael is an idiot.
They all are rotten people. That is true.
Yeah, I don't like them.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. If she doesn't like you, you're dead. You're dead to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how did he do that, Michael? Well, my father said either I'm going to have your signature or your brains on this contract. True
That
story.
horse did nothing wrong.
Yes, true
Please
story.
like me, Anna. Please like me. I don't
Oh
want her
my
to kill me.
God.
She's gonna do this. Mm.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, and compared to other episodes like that you rated, Graham, would you rate Charlie X on the same level as another episode that you've rated an 8? I don't know what your ratings are off the top of my head for each episode.
What did you rate the Corbomite?
You rated at a
maneuver?
9 or a
no,
10.
I gave that a 10.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, you did. I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
And I
So
would
Charlie
rather
X is 2 points under the Corbomite maneuver. I don't
What
know.
did
I
you
feel
give
like
Mantrap? What'd you give Mantrap, Graham?
What did I give Mantrap? I gave that an 8.
And you give
so
so
the
Charlie.
Man Trap is the same level as Charlie X.
Yeah, maybe I should give Mantrap an 8.5.
Get a little separation there. Get a little separation.
Yeah, a little space. Little
Okay.
space.
All right.
Hey, Aaron, I've been reading this Thelosian book.
You
I want
got
to show you
powers.
something. Watch this.
Okay.
Hey, it worked.
Ah, you
I
have
made him
the power.
disappear. Huh. Hey, Thelosians, bring him back.
And then
Everything
squids in the
as it
chat.
was before. We couldn't get here in time to save the crew of the whatever, but everything else is as it was before.
As it was before.
So where
It doesn't even make sense. How did he just ditch all of these all-powerful beings?
Yeah, how
Like,
did
they
he
were
get
just
away? They
gone
didn't
long-
notice. How did they get away
I know.
without him noticing?
And then he could destroy a ship that was on like the edge of their sensors, but they couldn't bring him back. Oh, there's plot holes.
It always is.
Yeah.
I know.
It always is in science fiction. If you some days you just can't think too hard. You have to have a suspension of disbelief for some things and just take the ride.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
I pretend like Shatner isn't wearing a toupee. That's my suspension of disbelief.
I deny it. I deny it.
Was he wearing one from the very beginning of the show, or did it come later?
Nah, from the very beginning.
Wow.
Did you guys like his tights in this episode? He had like tights underneath tights.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, they were.
And he's just like sucking in his dad bod the whole time.
He didn't want to do that scene. Originally, he had like a gi type of thing, the same thing Charlie was wearing, and I forget who it was said that he wanted to do it shirtless, and he didn't want to do it that way because he'd put on a few pounds because they'd been working 14-hour days, and he's eating on the go and all that kind of stuff, and he was a little self-conscious about it. But I thought he looked great. I mean,
yeah, he looked good.
Yeah, I think
Good enough.
I mean, he looked better than a lot of guys you see in TV now. I mean, he was in good shape.
He was a little stud muffin.
He had to go to the girdle in season 3, though, didn't he? Or was it season 2?
Yeah, it depends on what part of season 2. You'll see it since we're watching these things in the order that they're filmed. Like the first episode of season 2, I think that was filmed was Cat's Paw.
Yes.
And he looks very trim and stuff because in between the seasons, he got back on his regiments and stuff like that. He looks very trim. But by the end of season 2, the one with the what's Gary 7,
Mhm.
I mean, he's definitely got a little more weight on him.
Gary 7. What that was supposed to be a spin-off for a new series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, if we can talk more about that in season 2.
Indeed.
Uh-huh.
All right, my friends, we have hit our wall.
Read your
here.
super chats.
Oh, did I miss a couple? Hold on.
I think you got a couple.
Let's see. Yep. I think I put this one up. Hamill was great in body bags. Like his career. Squibs 199. You guys need to watch Next Generation after TOS. I
No,
think
we
we're going to
don't.
go on to the movies after TOS.
There is the Next Generation does not exist to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it does.
It's dead to
Wrong.
me. It's dead to me, Anna.
We could have
Why?
fun with that one though.
Because it's like
Especially
a
that first
wimpy
season.
Star Trek. They just sit around and talk about doing stuff. They don't actually
Yeah.
do anything.
Well, no, that's not
Yes,
true,
they
Aaron.
do.
Picard did do stuff. He surrendered the Enterprise twice in the first
Yep.
season.
Yeah.
So
They drank
They
tea.
were still working things out.
yeah, working out surrender policies.
Look at I want a captain that goes to alien worlds, picks up chicks, fights godlike aliens, and is no worse the wear at the end. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think the animated series actually should be the next one because a lot of the writers, DC Fontana, Theodore Sturgeon, the David Gerald, wrote scripts for the animated series.
I
and
thought we
for-
were going to do the animated series and then the movies.
Yeah, we are. That's what we're gonna do. We'll do the animated series and then the movies. And after the first one, we'll stop because that's when Star Trek ended. Oh, sorry, Aaron.
How dare
That's
you?
where Star Trek ends and The Godfather begins.
Oh, God.
Followed by the Goonies.
Oh yeah.
No, we're not going to review Space 1999. It's hard enough to stay awake.
Oh, yeah, I watched that show though, just because it was sci-fi, but man, it slow moving train.
Boy, oh boy. Did you
How
guys
bad
ever
was
watch
that one?
UFO?
Yes, watched it all the time.
Yeah, that was a little odd. It was the same people that did Space 1999, but it was kind of a cool concept. But again, British storytelling. It's
Yeah.
like, oh god damn, get to the point, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Same with
Oh,
their
Dave-
humor.
Was David McCallum in that? Or
no.
who was
The
in
only
it?
the guy who played Ed Straker. Can't remember his name now. He had the white hair.
Yeah, must be confusing him with David McCallum then.
Yeah. The man from Uncle. Yeah.
Squibs for $1.99 there is saying that Aaron, you need to try. No, there is no try. There is only do. I admit it. I've watched several Next Gen episodes over the years because it was on or whatever, but I didn't like any of them. The Borg ones were okay.
They got better.
They did.
By the end of the second season, they started on a roll and they started getting away from trying to be original series light.
Well, they kicked off Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah. Roddenberry, actually, I think he died. Ed Bishop, thank you. That's who was the star of UFO. Ed Bishop. Roddenberry had gotten so entrenched in his secularism and his humanism stuff that he felt that 400 years in the future, there were going to be no problems. I mean, that we're all going to live harmoniously. And well, where's the drama?
Yeah, exactly.
And it just doesn't follow the evolution of humanity. I mean, human beings, we've got foibles. We have things that are ingrained in us, that you can't ever take away.
Right. Technology is not going to cure the human condition. That's
no.
And,
so you gotta have
around in mini skirts. Come on, man.
They tested her out in a mini skirt, and then they're like, she just looks like a cheerleader in outer space.
No, I'm talking about they had guys walking around in mini skirts in that first season.
When was a guy in a mini skirt?
No. Yes, they did.
They had
They had those
shorts.
guys in those weird leotard things on that
they
one
had guys
planet.
in mini skirts. Maybe it was the pilot. I don't know, but they had.
Oh, are you talking about Next Gen?
I'm talking about Next Gen.
Oh, that planet where they went down to where everybody's all kumbaya and they run everywhere.
Yeah, but those aren't mini skirts; those are leotard.
No, you guys, you need to go back and look because apparently you weren't paying attention. There was dudes in mini skirts with bare legs in at least one of the episodes of Next Gen. It might have been the pilot. But
which episode is he talking about?
I don't think it's the pilot.
I don't remember any man in a mini skirt. Was it an alien or was it somebody on?
It was Federation because they wanted to they wanted this unisex.
Okay, I'm Googling this.
Go, you check it out. Next gen dude in a mini skirt, man skirt. I pretended they were centaur.
Oh,
See, Lynn Green knows.
when Wesley fell into the flower bud, they gave him the death penalty. I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
No, I know that episode you're talking about, but I'm not talking about the guys in the planet. I am talking about guys in the background. They tried it out and it didn't work, so they got rid of it. But it was like 1 or 2 episodes had dudes in mini skirts or skirts. You know,
Oh my God, I think he's right.
Really?
I
Oh,
am
share
right.
it.
I don't
Share the
make
screen.
stuff up.
Okay, let me share my screen. I don't remember this. If it's just background characters, then I obviously.
It was background characters.
But see, here's this guy.
Yeah.
Here's this guy.
There you go.
But he's in one.
Prancing around the ship.
Well,
See,
her.
this
Okay.
is, I hated their dress uniforms. This drove me crazy.
Yeah,
they
but
look like dresses.
I don't remember this.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh
That's
my
not
God.
even a
Okay,
mini skirt,
I
that's a
hate this
full-on
show
dress.
even more now.
See, I told
Look
you.
at the booties.
Oh,
I know. I just
Oh, well,
I
is
wish
that
I
first
didn't see
season?
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
I
so,
think they got rid of it. I don't even think it made it through the whole first season. I think they just did a couple episodes that had it in the background, and they were like, "Man, this isn't really working." But the idea was that there was, again, your humanistic Gene Roddenberry. We're so far in the future that men are comfortable wearing skirts, and women can wear pants, and whatever. And it was just like, no, they can't. So,
What about kilts? They can wear the kilts.
just telling you, scarred me, just like
Yeah.
Deliverance.
Well,
watch
this
that movie
explains
again.
why Aaron has never. Somebody else is saying first episode, so maybe it was Encounter at Farpoint. That would explain how Aaron is no way going to watch this damn series.
Listen, it gets better.
I was like going, what is going
At least
on
that's
back
the one
there
thing
in the
with next one.
background?
It doesn't
Yeah.
get worse. It gets better.
Okay.
Even on his his 13-inch tube TV back in 1986 or 89 when that show came on, he's like, "What is that? What is that?"
See, you focus on the fashion. I focus on if I like a character or not.
Hey, if some dude is walking in a dress in the background, I mean,
Hey,
how do
I
you not
missed
notice
that.
that?
So
Oh, there's no
man.
underwear in the future either.
if you ask George Lucas, that's correct.
There's no underwear in the future. Oh, that's right, because they didn't have a bra.
Princess Leia was not
whatever.
allowed a bra, even though there's gravity on ships. So
It's like, why? That makes no
Yeah,
sense at all.
Let's face it, that was the 70s.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
face it.
wasn't-
That was George Lucas seeing what
And
he wanted to see.
it's a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago, right? Isn't that what it said?
Yeah.
So they haven't even invented the bra yet or underwear yet.
They
well, they
invented-
invented the gold bikini. So I mean,
That's true. They did have the slave girl outfit, so
Well,
she's
men
got a
will be
bra
men,
now.
that's right. Back when they could get away with that in Hollywood. No, you don't need a bra for this scene.
Yeah.
You'll be
Perfect.
fine.
Can we turn
you
the
know,
temperature up in here?
Yeah,
No, it's good. It's good
What?
at 60.
it's like that. It's like that girl, the stunt woman in the opening scene of Jaws, right? Where she was,
Oh.
yeah, you need to be naked in this, and so like it's at night, right? You couldn't tell anyway, but so they had that camera shot underneath her where she was swimming, and if you watch the movie, you can see everything for a second there. And they told her, "Oh no, it'll be all in shadow. No one can see anything." And then of course they released it, and she was not too happy, shall we say? But
Have you guys ever
Every
seen
boy
that?
in America was happy.
I know
Yeah,
boys will
right.
be boys, right?
Have you ever seen that extras with Ricky Gervais and he's in Patrick Stewart's trailer and he's talking to Patrick Stewart and Patrick Stewart keeps directing the conversation to seeing these actresses and then with their clothes off and it always comes around to and then I saw everything. I saw it all. And he gives everything, no matter what it is, he keeps steering the conversation back to this type of thing. And it's always, and I saw it all. And he's like really creepy. It's funny as shit.
I've seen parts that I don't think I've seen the whole bit, but
Uh,
the one with Liam Neeson's hilarious too, where he is.
Oh, I
They're in
want
there
to do
reading and
improvisational comedy.
yeah, where he's like, "All right, I come into the doctor's office and I've got AIDS." He's like, "Well, that's not funny."
How does he get away with it? We don't
Yeah.
know. I love that one. That's really funny.
Well, we've tried to quit the show for about 30 minutes, and we just.
Oh, I
keep
know.
on going.
We more free entertainment, folks.
That's right. That's right. I'm glad I was able to educate Anna on at least something in Next Gen that she was unaware
Yes,
of.
you
so.
brought your A
Hey.
game, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You did.
Yeah, my pleasure. I want
Well
you to know
done,
what you're
sir.
really watching. Okay, that's
Yeah. Well, how many people actually watch season 1 of Next Gen?
I'll never watch it again. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Unless we have to do a show covering it. It does get better. You should give it a try.
I've watched plenty of episodes, enough to I know the characters,
There's
but
some really
I
good
just
ones.
it just was a cheap imitation to me, man. It's like it's not Star Trek,
Hmm.
the
Have
original.
you ever watched DS9?
Yes,
What about Enterprise?
I actually kind of liked Enterprise with Scott
I like
Bakula.
Enterprise.
I actually liked that episode of that series.
I like that plot thread that they had running through with the
Time travel?
yeah, but it was called something
The
something war.
Temporal Cold War.
Yeah, the temporal Cold War. I thought that was really cool, and they ended the series before they really got to explore that, which is a shame. But and that had the feeling of like original Trek, because you had a cool captain, interesting characters. I love how we had his dog on the ship too. I thought that was great.
It was
It was
pretty.
the most well-behaved beagle I've ever seen.
Oh my god, where did he pee and shit?
He doesn't smell anything either. I'm like, what kind of beagle is this? Like, a beagle always has its nose glued to the ground at all times. Every
Yep.
beagle I've ever seen is like that. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, he's just the most
That was
well-behaved.
pre-original series, right?
Yeah.
That was the very first.
It's before the Federation is even formed. So they
Yeah. They've
on that
just
in the fourth
they've just
season.
created the first warp engine.
Yeah, and it was like the only series that really shows Andorians.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was I watching that had the Vulcans first met the Earthlings when that one guy discovered the beginnings of the warp drive?
First
Oh.
Contact.
First Contact, yeah.
Oh, okay, that was one of the
Zephyr
movies. Right?
Cochran.
Yeah.
Zephyr,
Cochran.
yeah. Which I couldn't stand that they hired that guy to play Zephyr Cochran.
What?
Oh,
You like him?
Zephyr
No.
Cochran from the original series was this young, kind of handsome.
Yeah,
dude.
he's a stud muffin.
Yeah.
He's handsome.
yeah.
And then they got
I'm
their-
like, that's the guy that created Warp Drive, really?
Yeah,
like, you
then they
look at
got That'll
scientists
Do
today.
Big, That'll Do as the
Yeah. And then he's sort of a kind of a hippie-ish,
Mhm.
And then the idea that the Vulcans came first, that they gave us this stuff, and taught us and led us into space is bullshit. When you look back at the original series, we were already in space before we met the Vulcans.
Right. Well, they weren't into that. Supposedly, that's why Spock is an outlier, right? It's because he went against the teachings of his people to get
Right.
in, parents to get into Star Trek or
Yeah.
Starfleet. That's
Yeah.
all garbage. Burn it down. Except
burn it to the ground.
That's right. Anna, you've been poisoned by this Next Generation stuff.
I have not been poisoned. I've
Poisoned,
watched
I
all
tell
and
ya.
formed my own opinions.
You need the antidote.
Yeah.
Quick, give me the antidote.
When I came aboard. He says it, and then he says it again. It's like they re-loop it for no reason. When I came aboard. I don't know. All right, guys. We are going to sign up this time. So next week, Balance of Terra. Awesome episode.
Romulans.
Hoping Ron will be here with us. And we shall see you then, my friends. Have a good one.